Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, welcome to lecture number 5 of research methodology. The topic of today's lecture is literature review. Literature review is an important part of any kind of research, whenever I talk to students about the research, or when the student contact me for their research topic, research problem, mostly I say that first go through the literature review. The literature review is an important part of the research because it will let you know about the variables of the study, the dependent variable, the independent variables, and the much information about the research relevant to your topic. So literature review is very important for any kind of research. In this lecture we will discuss the different steps of the literature review, including the identify the key terms, locate the literature from where you can get the literature, critically evaluate and select relevant literature. Once you locate the literature, whether you find it in the library or on the internet, from the journals, then what the next step is that to critically evaluate and select the relevant literature. After this, we select the relevant literature, organize them, and then write the literature review. So before coming to the steps of literature review, let's discuss what literature review is. Every researcher seeking literature review will have to some questions in the mind, then like what is a literature review? Where do I begin in conducting a literature review? What are the best materials to include in my review, and how do I locate them? Similarly, another question comes to mind: is it worth my time to search the internet for literature? Similarly, are there any shortcuts for identifying journal articles on my topic? Should I gather and summarize both the qualitative and quantitative review, or whether to include only quantitative review or only qualitative review, or both of such type of studies in my research is another question which often comes to the mind of the researcher. Similarly, while conducting this, the review, most of the students, they ask their supervisors, their advisor, how long should my literature review be? What should be the length of literature review? And often they are in search of an example that they want to examine, so that they may start a literature review. Now the question arises what a literature review is. So dear students, a literature review is a written summary of journal articles, books, and other documents that defines the past and current state of information on the topic of your research study. According to Criswell, the literature review is actually the summary of the relevant articles or material from the books or other documents that describe the existing information and the past information relevant to your research topic. Doing a literature review means not only tracking down all the relevant information, but also taking a critical position on the ideas contained therein. One of the essential primary tasks when a person undertakes a research study is to go through the existing literature in order to acquaint yourself with the available body of knowledge in the area of interest. Reviewing the literature can be consuming, disheartening, frustrating, but it is also rewarding. It is very difficult task, the review of the relevant literature. Search for the literature it's a time consuming, and also it's a very frustrating and disheartening sometimes too. But it gives you too much as well. It is rewarding as well. The literature review is an integral part of research process and makes a valuable contribution to almost every operational step. According to Kumar 2004, a literature review is an integral part of research process. The purpose of literature review is simple. It is to educate oneself in the topic area and to understand the literature before shaping an argument or justification. The purpose of literature review is to provide background to and justification for the research undertaken. A literature review is a survey of everything that has been written about the topic, theory, or the research question. It gives you the complete information about the topic, about its purpose, about the material which is needed for that topic. It may provide the background for larger work or it may stand on its own. Much more than simple list of sources, an effective literature review analyzes and synthesizes information about key themes or issues. We get the definitions, we get the explanation of the variables, of the issues, of the themes in the literature review. So, dear students, reviewing the literature critically will provide the foundation on which your research is built. If research is reviewed carefully and in detail, it will strengthen the base, it will strengthen the foundation of your research. According to Criswell 2012, a good literature review organizes the literature into subtopics and documents the need for that are needed for a proposed study. Document needed for a proposed study. In most rigorous form of research, educators base their review mainly on research reported in research journals. A good review, however, might also contain information from conference papers, from books, and government documents. It means that a literature review should include all type of the sources, including the conference papers, including the books, the journal articles, and the government documents, and the other sources of information. Regardless of sources of information, all researchers conduct a literature review as a step in the research process. It is a research step in all types of the research process. In research articles, in some of the journals format, literature review is a separate section, while in the thesis and the research reports, the literature review is a necessary step. So, concluding the discussion, we can say that literature review is conducted for the purpose of strengthening the foundation of the research. What is the why this review is necessary? Why is this review necessary? We conduct a literature review to document our study aid to the existing literature. A study will not aid to literature if it duplicates search already available. Means that the literature review let us know our research gap. Because if a study is conducted without reviewing the literature and the results found are already existed in the literature, then this means that your study has added nothing to the existing literature, but it is a duplicate of research study already available. Researchers conduct a literature review to convince the graduate committee that you know the literature on your topic and what you summarize. You know that all the universities, all the departments have the graduate study committee, which GSC, normally known as GSC, which evaluates your research proposal and your research studies. So conduct a literature review to convince that committee which approves your research. You also complete a literature review to provide evidence that educators need your study. You may base this need on learning new ideas, sharing the latest findings with others, and identifying practices that might improve learning in the classroom. Similarly, conducting a literature review also builds your research skills of using the library and being an investigator who follows leads in the literature and all useful experience to have as a researcher. Because without a literature review, you will never use the library. You will not use the books, the library, the internet. So conducting a literature review strengthens your base for your research. Reading the literature also helps you learn how other educators compose their research studies and help you find useful examples and models in the literature for your own research. Mostly when we review the literature, we build our the model, our theoretical model, our empirical model on the basis of this literature. So we get variables from the literature, we get relevant variables from literature, our dependent variable, our explanatory variables, similarly theoretical modeling, and we give theoretical base to the model of our study with the help of the literature. By conducting a literature search using computer databases, you develop skills in locating needed material in timely manner. Because if you know about the computer, you will have to know about the computer in order to conduct your literature review. When you go through the databases, you come to know how to download articles from the JSTOR, how to download articles from Scoopers, how to download articles from the Science Direct. Then it means that you are able to use your time properly and utilize your time, and you can get enough information in least time. Dear students, there is a format of literature review or few steps from which each researcher will have to pass through, and these regardless of whether the study is quantitative or qualitative, common steps can be used to conduct a literature review. Each and every study will have to pass through these steps, whether it is a quantitative review study or whether it is a qualitative study. All these studies will have to pass through this stage. Literature will have to be reviewed in all cases, whether quantitative or qualitative. Knowing these steps helps a researcher read and understand a research study. Knowing the steps gives a place to start and ability to recognize the relevant issues. A literature review follows no prescribed path, but somebody plans to design and conduct a study. He will typically go through the 5 interrelated steps. Dear students, these steps give you a direction, because this let you know from where to start and where to end. What should be the start of the literature review and what should be the end of literature review. The first step is identify key terms. If you identify key terms for your study, this will able you to identify your literature. Start search of the literature by narrowing your topic to a few keywords or short phrases. Possibly you may have a very long research title, but if you narrow it to a few words or keywords or short phrase, it will be easy for you to search the literature. These must be chosen carefully because they are important for initially locating literature in a library or through an internet search. To identify these terms, several strategies can be used. Number 1, Write a preliminary working title for a project and select 2 or 3 keywords in the title that capture the central idea of your study. Pose a short general research question that you would like answered in the study. Select 2 or 3 words in the question that best summarize the primary direction of the study, or use words that others report in the literature. Researchers use the term theory. For this explanation, there might be theory of social support or learning style of students, or population growth theory in a subject of economics, theory of economic growth, the theory of human capital, the different types of the theories. Words can be selected for your research depending on your research title. The actual words of theory, social support, or learning styles become the word to use in your research. Visit online databases that are typically available in college or university libraries. Go to bookshelves in a college or university library, scan the table of contents of education journals from last 7 to 10 years and look for key terms. As we are conducting our research in subject of economics, so the search depends on your subject as well. Once you identify key terms, then the next step becomes locate the literature, from where you can get the literature. The next step after identification of key term is to begin the search for relevant literature. A researcher can begin search by accessing internet and exploring the electronic literature available on the topic. You can make use of Google. You can make use of the Google Scholar or other search engines in order to locate your literature. This process may be convenient, but not all literature are placed on the internet. You can find the literature of those books and those articles, those journals which are online, but there is a very large treasure of the books outside, which is not placed on the internet, material on the internet. Some of the material may not be of quality without and have not passed through standard of external reviews. Similarly, all the material on the internet is not a good one or of good quality. There may be some journals, there may be some articles which may have not passed through the review process. So the use of such articles in your research is not authentic. However, full text documents of high quality are available on the internet. We have full text documents. For the economics, we have different the articles which you download from the Science Direct or from the JSTOR or from Scopus or some good databases are of high quality. The material recommended by faculty or student can also help researcher in many ways. Similarly, for those who are new in the field of research, they can get the advice of the faculty or their advisor or the senior students in the relevant area. In locating literature, the researcher can use academic libraries. It is suggested to begin your search in academic library. Accessing the computerized databases will save time. Now, in this advanced era, in the 21st century, the computerized databases are available, and accessing these databases saves the time of the researcher. Comprehensive holdings not available through other sources. A town or city library has some useful literature, but an academic library offers the largest collection of material, especially research studies. You may find many libraries, general libraries, your town library, your city library, but those libraries will not be much useful for your research. The Academic libraries of your college, of university, can be very helpful for you. Academic library provide online journals for easy computer accesses and computerized databases such as JSTOR, Science Direct, Scopus, etc. If you go to your library, if you go to your university library, you can access the computerized databases like the JSTOR, Science Direct, Scopus, etc. And you can download articles of your choice from there. Similarly, use both primary and secondary sources. Literature review often consists of both primary and secondary source materials. Primary source literature consists of literature of individuals who actually conducted the research or who originated the ideas. Research articles published by education journals are example of this type of source. Primary sources present the literature in original state and present the viewpoint of original author. Primary sources also provide the details of original research better than do the secondary sources. Secondary source literature is literature that summarizes primary sources. It does not represent material published by original researcher or the creator of the idea. Examples of the secondary sources are handbooks, encyclopedias, and select journals that summarize the research. Similarly, other places of for your literature review can be dictionaries and glossaries of terms. Other useful tools in the literature review and overall research process are dictionaries and glossaries of terms. These dictionaries consist most of the recent educational terms. For example, Dictionary of Statistics and Methodology, a non-technical guide for social sciences, 3rd edition, what 2005 defines handbooks. There are numerous handbooks that discuss topics such as teaching, reading, curriculum, social studies, the education administration, multicultural education, and the teacher education. We can have the Dictionary of Economics, Dictionary of Statistics, or the dictionaries of different types of the subjects. These can be used to review your literature. Similarly, statistical indexes, statistical indexes, reviews and synthesis books. Academic libraries have extensive collection of books of broad range of educational topics. The books most useful in reviewing the literature will be those that summarize the research studies or report conceptual discussions on the educational topics. The textbooks used in the classes are less useful because they are typically do not contain reports of single research studies, but they contain summaries of literature and useful references. Journal and journals, index publications, electronic sources for journal articles, and the conference papers that report such are prime sources for literature review. To locate articles in the journals, consider searching on abstract series, indexes to journals, or the diverse computer databases in education and social sciences. Similarly, literature can be obtained from the abstract series as well. So, after the first two steps, identifying key terms and the locating the literature, once the researcher is able to locate the literature, the next step is critically evaluate and select the literature. The process of research begins with the literature. So once you locate literature, you will need to determine if it is good source to you and whether it is relevant to your search topic or not. This is an important step as well, that once you, after locating the literature, once you find the literature, then a question arises in the mind of the researcher. whether it is good or not, or whether it is relevant to the research topic or not. So the first question which arises, is it a good or accurate source? It sometimes comes as a shock to the beginning researchers that even though a study has been published, it may not be worthy of including in the literature review. How it fits into the overall literature. You might also construct a visual picture of the literature, a literature which is called a literature map, that helps to organize it, positions your study within the literature, and provide a framework for presenting research to the audiences about your topic. Is it relevant? After ensuring a high quality and worthy literature review, the next step is to ensure its relevance. You read the selected literature, the titles of the articles, the contents of abstracts, and major headings in the study. This review helps determine if the information is relevant to use in the literature review or not. You must care about, does the literature focus on the same topic as you proposed study? Does the literature examine the same individuals or sites that you want to study? Does the literature examine the same research problem that you propose to study? Does it address the same research question you plan to address? Is the literature available in your library, or can you download it from website? Can you obtain it easily from the library or website? If you answer yes to these questions, then literature is relevant for your literature review. Dear students, the fourth step is to organize the literature. Once you locate the literature, you check its relevance, you evaluate it. The next step is to organize the literature. Once you located the literature, assessed its quality, and checked it for relevance, the next step is to organize it for a literature review. The process involves photocopying and filing the literature. At this time, you might quickly read it, take notes on it, or determine how it fits into the overall literature. You might also construct a visual picture of the literature, a literature map, that helps you organize it, position your study in the literature, and provide a framework for presenting research to the audience about your topic. Reducing, downloading, and filing. After locating books, journal articles, and miscellaneous documents in the library, you must also make copies of the articles, scan the articles, download the articles, or develop some system to easily retrieve the information. It means that when the researcher is locate there some of the literature have to be taken from some books, the published books, from journal articles or other documents. In these cases, some material can be downloaded, or it can be photocopied, or it can be scanned. Copyright laws permit the duplication of only one complete article without permission of the author. Placing the articles in file folders alphabetized by author name may be the most convenient way to organize the material. It depends on the mindset of the researcher, that how does he organize the literature. It can be kept alphabetically by the author's name, or some other ways. Alternatively, you might organize literature by sources, by topic, or by keywords. You can organize the literature by keywords, or by topic, or by sources, or by alphabetical order of the authors. Taking notes and abstracting studies. During the process of reading the literature, researchers may take notes on the information so that a summary of the literature is available for a written review. It is recommended that while reviewing the letter, you should take notes of the important topics. You should note the variables. You should note the model. You should note the methodology. and take notes of it, write it on your register, or you can also copy it. If it is in short form, you can copy it in a Word file and save it. This note taking is often an informal procedure in which the researcher identifies important ideas about the article or material, writes rough notes about each source of revenue. When I was doing my PhD, during my PhD, it was my methodology to take notes of each article, each book relevant to my research topic, and I used to write a rough review of each article separately. This process may involve a citation to the article and brief summary of the major points of the article. Once you write the notes, it is recommended that you may also write the references at the end. In the next lecture, we will also discuss the reference format. So I will let you know how to write the references. These points may be generally include the questions being addressed, the data collection. You may note how the data was collected, what was the target group. Similarly, what were the objectives and what were the major results of the study. Instead of this informal approach, a preferred strategy is to systematically record the information about each source that you may easily insert it into a written review of the literature. This process yields useful information so that you can remember details of your study. You can see the next lecture for the remaining topics. For the details, you can read these books. All the material in this lecture has been taken from the Criswell 2012, Kumar 2011, Relevance 2011, and Saunders et al. 2009. So in order to study this material in detail, you can read this book. Reading to these books, which will be very beneficial for you. Some of other steps of the literature review, like how to write the literature review, will be discussed in the next lecture number 6, which will be the part 2 of the literature review. Thank you very much.